Eerily haunting true stories about remote abandoned locations rich in history. Come with us, now travels from state to state, if you dare.
Maybe the last time anybody sees us alive. I don't know where she has us, but we get something killed.
Hello?
Gina, there is a beehive over there. Do you see that in the hole?
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness.
Welcome to 50 States of Madness. Ooh, that was loud.
Was it loud in your ear?
Yeah, because I was like talking like, maybe I need to lower myself a little bit. I don't know.
Okay. Do you want to start that over?
No, we're good.
We're good?
It just hurt my ears because
Oh.
I think I had the microphone just a little too close.
Too loud on you?
Oh.
Well, I'm Shannon.
Hi, I'm Gina.
And
We're 50 States of Madness. And this is the madness.
you just threw me off with that. That's why.
Oh.
I was like, oh, are we going to start over? She's like, no, let's just keep going. I'm going
Sorry.
deaf in one ear, but it's okay.
No, it's just because you had your...
Oh, no, I put on these when we were starting, and I didn't see that I did this. Wait, how is it? And I thought I couldn't hear out one side of my thing, so... I am not the sharpest tool in the shed right now. I think since I was telling somebody, since I got over COVID, I feel like how they talk about the brain fog.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'll be making drinks at Starbucks, and I'll read it. I'm like, oh, it needs 4 pumps of sugar and some vanilla sweet cream foam, and then I'll just turn over and I'll hand them the cup of coffee with none of that stuff in it.
Oh, God.
And the people would look at oh, I wanted sweet cream on this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I see it and I read it, but it just
Doesn't register?
no, it's just not processing. And so I'm kind of coming out of that fog. So forgive me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
And then I'm trying to drink less caffeine, and so it's just
You'll get there.
a whole lot of things going on with
I've
me
got
right
her
now.
I've got her to start drinking water. So
Yes.
that's a plus.
I have my little Yeti and
Yeah.
filling it up with water.
We're getting there.
I'm on my third one today of my Yeti.
That's good.
And then I drank 3 of the Trenta cups at Starbucks. And so I had to Google how many fluid ounces. So I drank 72 fluid ounces that day. So that's really good for me. Yeah.
That's very good.
Considering, going from 12 to 70. No, not 12, but, probably.
I was going to say
I'm gonna
probably
plead the
less
fifth.
than
I know.
12. Like 2.
I'm gonna
2 sips.
plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah.
So
So she's working on it.
I am. I'm trying to be better.
Yes.
Trying to be healthier.
Our merch store is live and up
It's
and ready
up
to
and
go.
running. They are so cute.
Yes.
So, yeah, definitely you have to check that out. And we will have sweatshirts soon and beanies and everything that people are requesting.
Yeah.
But we have the T-shirts
Right
up
now
for
we have just the T-shirts.
in 3 different designs now.
3 different designs. So that'll be linked everywhere. So it's actually in our bio of our Instagram. And then we can start linking it in the show notes on YouTube and
Yeah,
stuff
absolutely.
like that. Yeah. So because for right now, you cannot get to our merch store from our website.
No, not yet.
So yeah, that will be fixed. But as of right now, that
Follow the links.
that
The
does
links
not,
will lead you there.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
So today we are talking about a case that was requested by, again, I should have looked, and I'm so sorry. And I probably wouldn't have remembered anyway because I'm terrible with names. I'm lucky I remember my own damn name. But this was requested by a listener on YouTube, and it is the case of the Springfield Three. That's what it's called. That's what the case was called. And it is a case of 2 younger girls and a mother. I don't even want to say 2 younger girls and an older lady because she was
still young
she
too.
was 47. She's
Younger
younger
than
than me.
I know,
So,
younger than me.
Yeah.
So 3 young ladies.
3 young ladies that went missing. And it's a pretty involved case.
And it's funny because they go up and missing and just
They vanish.
vanish.
Literally vanish.
It's crazy. And it's 30 years ago.
Yeah,
And
it's
no trace.
yeah.
No clue what happened. Nothing. Just theories.
So to put it into perspective, these girls, the two younger girls that went missing, I believe are right about my age because they graduated
in 1992.
and that's when I graduated.
Oh yeah, they are exactly your age.
So yeah, I think they were like 6 months older than me or something like that. So
that's insane.
yeah, so they went missing when they were like 16 or 17 years old, and now, you know,
That's crazy.
yeah, they would be in their late 40s now. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yep.
think they were 17, 18 years, 17
Mhm.
years old.
Yeah.
17 or 18, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's a pretty involved story. There's a lot of people involved there. I actually wrote it down because I haven't. There was a book written about it, and it's called "Gone in the Night: The Springfield Three." And when I'm done with my book club, if I ever get done, I definitely want to read that. And then there's a podcast called The Ozarks.
Yes.
And we did listen to that.
Very good. Check them out.
Yeah. And there's actually like a short film called The Springfield Three.
Yeah.
I didn't watch that though on it. So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's a lot of information.
It's a huge mystery.
Yeah. And
It's crazy.
It's just, like you said, it's just these women just are gone. They
Yeah.
were literally here, and they've narrowed it down to just like a few hours of where it had to have happened.
Yeah, the time frame.
And it's just, yeah, it's crazy how they're just up and vanished, gone.
Well, we'll give you more information on that right now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit going to be probably a little longer episode than normal because
it's a lot of detail.
yeah, we tried to get as much detail in as possible, but not make it, you know,
She's
where
so
it
cute.
was.
She said we.
Oh,
She
well.
said we tried. I listened to the podcast and I watched some documentaries and stuff on it, but Gina actually did the painstakingly hard job. I don't even know if that's a word. She did the task of writing it out. And that is a lot of work. So where's our clap?
I don't know.
Thank you, Gina.
I can't reach that far.
She's so cute. She said we.
Well, because
Gina
you
put it
write some of them, I write some of them,
that's
so
true, but
it's, you
still.
know.
This one, I haven't gotten started on one that I want to do because it's so detailed and it's just, I just commend you on just getting
No,
it
when I
started.
started this one, I knew that it was going to be, after listening to like the first episode of the podcast, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be a doozy.
Yeah.
But I
And
really
it
wanted
is.
to push through it just because I started to get really invested in it.
I want to solve it.
And when it's,
Sure, there's people out there like me
and
too,
when
but
it's requested by somebody, I really want to
yeah,
get to those too. So
I don't like mysteries that aren't solved. Like, you know,
yeah,
I just,
those are a little,
I don't like it. Just
those are a
hanging
little
out there like-
harder to,
yeah,
because there's no
there's no closure.
ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I
Okay.
agree.
Well, we're going to get started on the Springfield Three. In February 1992, Sherrill Levitt and her daughter, Suzie Streeter, moved in a home at 1717 East Delmar Street in Springfield, Missouri. Sherrill was just newly divorced and the two were downsizing into a smaller home. Sherrill was a single mom and took pride in teaching and showing her daughter good work ethic. Suzie and Sherrill were very close and Suzie looked up to her mother, wanting to be just like her. Suzie was a senior at Kickapoo High School and worked part-time at the local movie theater. After high school, she wanted to go to cosmetology school and become a hairdresser like her mother. Her mom owned a hair
salon. Yeah, I believe so.
in Springfield, Missouri. So, in May, Suzie and her friend Stacy McCall, a friend since childhood and who was also a senior, started to attend all of the graduation activities at the high school. They also began to realize that after high school, their group of friends would go their different ways. Some of them would be attending college and some wouldn't. Janelle Kirby, a friend of both of the girls, said that the three of them had made plans for the upcoming summer. They were planning to go to the water park, pools, shopping, and getting ready for college. In the fall, Janelle and Stacy were going to attend Missouri State. You know, you graduate, you're so excited, all these plans ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, and
so
that's like the time of year that we're at right now too. Graduation.
All the graduations are
Yeah.
happening right now. So they were going to be attending Missouri State University together, while Suzie planned to attend cosmetology school. Oh, my heart.
Yeah.
I went to cosmetology school.
So did I.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Really?
I was
Okay. Everybody, this is news to me.
Yeah.
Like, I have known Gina for how old are our kids?
Yeah.
23 years?
I went when I was 15 or 16 years old.
Really?
Mhm.
Maybe you did kind of mention that to me.
I just
in
went
passing.
for nails.
Yeah. I think you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, on June 6th, I feel like I learned something new about you every time we do one of these.
I keep little hidden gems
Yeah, you do.
sometimes, so I could just
wanna
throw them out at you.
Keep the magic alive.
Yeah.
On June 6th, the girls graduated from Kickapoo High School. That night, the school had planned the all-night alcohol-free party called Project Graduation. It was a party that required you to sign an agreement that you wouldn't bring in any alcohol, and once you were in, you couldn't leave until the next morning. The girls decided not to attend the school party and made plans of their own. After graduation, the three girls went out to dinner separately with their families and then later met up at Janelle's house to go to a party at her neighbor's house.
After all of the graduation stuff, we went out to eat. And then Stacy went home with us, and she immediately started changing clothes. And I said, wait, you can't change clothes yet. We've got pictures.
After the party, they were going to drive 30 minutes from Springfield to Branson, because that's where they would get a motel in Branson. And the next day they would go to a water park that was called Whitewater.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Whitewater Water Park near the motel. Stacy's mom wasn't too happy about the girls' plans. Because driving that late at night after a party, 30 minutes.
To me, just saying you're going to get a motel anywhere and you're 17 years old or 18 years old, like, I don't know. That just doesn't.
That's scary. Even
yeah.
if it's only 30 minutes away for a
doesn't
water
matter.
park, that would make me a little nervous too.
Yeah.
You say the word motel, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Like even when we travel across the states
Of
and
course.
we're going to stay in a motel, like,
Maybe not.
yeah.
Maybe
But
not.
we did. But
yeah. Well, we did.
but yeah, it just, I don't know. But young girls like that, it just makes me really nervous.
Yep.
So I can see why Stacy's mom wasn't happy. But she was relieved because they decided to change their plans and not stay at the motel. And they decided just to go back to Janelle's house and spend the night there because they stayed at the party a lot later than they had intended to.
Right.
After the girls got to Janelle's house, they realized that there really wasn't any room for them to stay there. Janelle's family from Kansas had all come up for the graduation and were all staying there at the house. Suzie and Stacy once again decided to change their plans. They were going to go to Suzie's house and spend the night there, and then in the morning call Janelle to meet up with them at the water park. The two girls left Janelle's house in separate cars. The next morning, June 7th, around 9 a.m., Janelle woke up and hadn't heard from the two girls. She called Suzie's house and got no answer. She called several times and still nobody answered the phone. Janelle then decided that her and her boyfriend were going to go over to Suzie's house and see if the girls were there. When they pulled up to the house, it appeared that everyone was there. All three cars were there. The two girls' cars were parked in the driveway, and Sherrill's car was parked in the carport. When Janelle and her boyfriend walked up to the front door, they noticed that the globe on the front porch light was shattered and was all over the porch. They knocked on the door and nobody answered, so they think that maybe they were still sleeping, right? Because they were knocking on there.
Yeah.
So at the time, and I just think this is funny because I don't know who would do this, but at the time, the boyfriend grabs a broom and then starts sweeping up the shattered glass.
That got me because I'm like, what would I mean, if I think like if I were to go to your house looking for you.
Yeah. And I'm not answering.
And you're not answering. It wouldn't be in my mind like, oh my God, something happened to her.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't grab a broom. Maybe that's just me being a lazy ass, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to clean her porch up.
Yeah. If I had, maybe I think differently, but if you're not answering the phone and I was supposed to meet up with you because you're so on time. And so if I would come up to the house and to try to find you and I saw broken glass on the porch, I'd be like, oh goodness, I'm not going in. I'm going to call the cops right now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and
I
the fact
thought
that
it was odd.
the door was unlocked and they could just walk in.
They can just, but maybe, you know, we're talking 1992 and
True.
I don't want to say it was like,
no, but
it wasn't like the 80s or the 70s, but still
times were different.
yeah,
for
it was a
sure.
little bit different. And so some people,
Yeah,
like
I
the
just
doors
don't
open.
know if that would be the first thing on my mind
I had a lot of questions.
is
yeah.
to like,
Sweep. But where was the broom? Did he have to go inside the house to get it? Was it on the side of the porch? I'm like really curious because they never really mentioned anything that I watched or heard where the
I could
broom
be
was.
wrong, but I think in the podcast they say that there was a broom right there.
Oh, there was a broom.
A broom outside.
Okay.
But
'Cause I'm like,
still, I don't, I mean, I guess it depends because if you're talking about it being like on the porch, right? If it's going to like interfere with me walking into your house and I don't want to like track
maybe.
glass in and there's a broom right there, yeah, I probably might grab
I was
it.
going to say, if the broom's there where you can see
Yeah,
it, maybe I would
then maybe
too.
I would.
But I wouldn't have went looking for a broom.
No.
Okay. So maybe we're just going to say that the broom was right there.
And their
he just grabbed
driveway is like a,
it's those
it's like a
round-
horseshoe driveway where you know, in and out. And then in the back part was the carport where
Yes.
the mom's car was parked. And then the two girls were parked in the actual
the drive.
roundabout. Yeah.
Yeah. And that comes into play and it becomes very, very important how the cars were found.
Because
Yeah.
I guess that's a little out of the norm.
Because normally Suzie would park next to her mom in the carport unless there was another car parked there
Yeah.
or she was going to block her somehow. She would never, you know, block her mom in.
Yeah.
So the only time she would park in the driveway is not to block the mom in because there's another car there.
Yeah.
So her being in the horseshoe was not
normal.
normal. And they do bring that up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some other car had to have been parked there in the carport for Suzie not to park next to her mom.
Right. It just makes you realize like how good those ring cameras really come in.
Yes. Because now you capture a lot.
I mean, if their neighbor across the street or next door had a ring camera, it'd be solved.
Yes. So he picks up the broom and he starts cleaning up the shattered glass. And this is the boyfriend of Janelle, just in case we went on a tangent and you lost track. But we have Janelle and her boyfriend. They went to the house. The boyfriend they see the shattered, it's like those bulbs on the front porch. It fell, it broke, it shattered. He's cleaning it up. And then they both decided to go into the house. They opened the front door and started to yell the girls' names, but there was no answer. They started to walk around the house. At first glance, everything looks normal. Both Suzie and Sherrill's bed had been slept in, and in the bathroom they found some of the girls' jewelry. They also found used washcloths where the girls had taken off their makeup the night before. It was obvious to them that the girls had made it back to Susie's house the night prior. I know they were saying like how their clothes were neatly folded, you know, everything was there.
It literally.
It didn't look disturbed.
No.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, it was obvious to them that the girls had made it back to Susie's house the night prior. As time went on, Janelle started to feel like something wasn't right. Susie's dog was running around the house, acting very anxious and had been left unattended, which wasn't normal.
Yeah, they said that, I guess the dog, I can't remember. I think the dog's name was Cinnamon.
Oh.
But the dog was, she said that the dog kept wanting her to, like, she wanted to be held. She was like running around, like something was wrong, you know, like, and that wasn't.
They just want to talk.
Yeah. And she was just acting very anxious and for the dog to be left unattended was not a normal thing for them.
And I think where the dog was not its usual place where he was found.
Yeah.
So, however, the most telling clue that something was wrong was that Sherrill's lighter and cigarettes were left on the table. She was a chain smoker. She liked her cigarettes. So for her to leave the house without her cigarettes. Susie's brother stated that his mom, Sherrill, was a chain smoker and would even carry her cigarettes from room to room with her. She never would have left the house without them.
I mean, if she got out of bed and went into the living room to say something, she brought a cigarette.
Her and her boyfriend are very confused and decided to leave, thinking that maybe the girls went to the water park without them. At first they thought they went out to breakfast maybe. And
Yeah.
then since they waited a little later, they would be back. And then
Yeah.
now the water park. Yeah. As the two of them were walking out of the house, the phone rang. Janelle answered it. The male on the other line didn't identify himself, but was making sexual comments, and Janelle quickly hung up. The phone rang again immediately, and it was the same person. Janelle and her boyfriend thought this was a prank and didn't think it had anything to do with the girls. So Stacy never told her mom, Janice, that they had changed plans to stay the night back at Susie's house. So Janice didn't have Susie's new phone number since they had just moved into that house a few months prior.
Yeah.
So Janice kept calling, had eventually called Janelle's house to find out, like, hey, they didn't.
Where are they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where are they? She called Janelle's house because, she hadn't heard from her. She thought she was going to hear from her. She hadn't heard from her. And so she's trying to track her down. So, of course, she's going to call Janelle's house because that's the last place she thought she was. And that's when they told her, no, they didn't stay
never
the night
stayed
here.
here.
Yeah. So they went back. They had gone back to Susie's house. So Janice finally, around 5 p.m. on June 7th, Janice tracks down Susie's new phone number and calls but gets no answer.
Stacy, this is your mom calling. Please call me at home. Bye.
So she decides to go to the house. By this time, nobody had heard from the girls in over 15 hours. When Janice got to the house, she knocked and there was no answer, so she decided to go inside. It's funny during this time how everybody just decides to go inside.
Just walk
the house.
in?
Yeah, just going
I
inside.
don't know
the house.
if I would do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially at this point, at the 15-hour mark, something's clearly wrong.
Yeah,
Something's happening, and I don't. It's so hard. I put myself in like these positions sometimes where I'm like, what would I do? And I'm like, I feel like you don't know what you do until you're there.
Yeah, and how you respond.
Yeah.
And back then too, though, there wasn't all these. True crime wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't huge like it is now, where
Right.
you're hearing about all these things. So you're learning all the things to do and not to do. And I always thought about that, about 48 hours and stuff. It's like they're basically letting criminals to be, or murderers to be, giving them
What to do.
guidelines on how to get away with it.
Yeah.
Like,
you just wrote a how-to book.
Yeah, they're getting better and better at this.
Yeah.
Because
This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Now we just
exactly.
told them, make sure the cameras are all off.
Right.
So once inside, she said she felt like she shouldn't be walking into the house and announce, but she needed answers. She said there were a few things that stuck out to her in the house. She spotted her daughter's clothes that she had been wearing the day before folded neatly in the corner, but her shirt and underwear were missing. The TV was left on, but it was all fuzzy. It used to do that. Shh.
Yeah.
My sound effects.
Like the white noise.
Yeah, the white noise. Susie, Stacy, and Sherrill's purses were all lined up next to each other on the floor. Janice then decided to call the police and report them missing.
We had no idea there was a crime scene there. You don't know that. You don't expect it. You're looking for your daughter and trying to find out what happened. And
Janice McCall recalls going to Levitt's home 25 years ago, finding the purses of all three women. There was no sign of a struggle, only a broken glass bulb over the front porch light. Police believe the three women went missing sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 8 a.m.
I remember when the police department came up and 2 officers came in, and I explained what was going on, and I walked them through the house and explained what was going on there. So the officers said, well, we're going to go outside and discuss this and look around a little bit. When they came back in, they said, we're going to file this as a missing persons case, foul play suspected.
The police filed a missing persons report. The police officer asked Janice to come to the station the following morning. When she met with the officers, they asked her if she'd be able to get dental records for the girls. That would scare me. That would be like, what did you find already?
Yeah, I think that's kind of when she realized, like, okay, this is like taking a turn now.
Like the magnitude of the girls gone.
Because I mean, that's just kind of what you use to identify a dead body.
But, yeah,
you know?
I'm like, I would be like, what did you find? Why do you need her dental records? But I guess to file the missing persons report, you know, to have it there. She immediately got the pictures she took at the graduation, developed, and made missing persons posters. Imagine the day before you have a graduation party for your child.
Yep.
And those are the photos you're using.
Yeah.
To
make a missing person.
Go around and make a missing persons report. And I know that the mom, one of the mothers, wanted to cut the graduation cake. And they're like, no, tomorrow. And that graduation cake was never cut.
Never cut.
It just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's sad because it's just the thought, like, you always think there's going to be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you never think, like, things like this are going to happen to somebody so young, to just girls that are so young. And it's like in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have tomorrow.
So with the help of the community, they distributed the flyers statewide. It was then that they were called the Springfield Three. The police had started to develop a timeline and narrowed it down to sometime between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. is when something happened to the girls. Unfortunately, when Janelle and her boyfriend and Stacy's mom Janice went into the house, some of the items were contaminated from them moving things around. When they thought they were doing good, trying to look for them, they're contaminating
and I
maybe
think
a crime
too,
scene.
like, only because I am so into true crime that would come to my head. Like, okay, don't touch anything, don't move anything. I automatically go to like the JonBenet Ramsey case. Like, there's so many crime scenes that have just been destroyed by so many people in and out, But if you don't think about that and you're just in a panic and you're looking for somebody, like, you don't realize, like, oh my God, I just swept away this glass. I just walked on the carpet and my fingerprints are now everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't think about that stuff.
Yeah. It's so sad. So when Janice was there, she played back a message on the answering machine that was unfortunately deleted. When Janice was asked what the message said, she said she didn't remember. All she remembered was that it was a man. So the police don't believe that it was tied to the calls that came through when Janelle and her boyfriend were there. Oh, they don't believe that it was even the same man.
No.
Okay. So it could have been somebody trying to
I'm
get
sure
a
they
hold of
probably could have,
Sherrill,
like,
maybe? Sherrill? I keep saying Sherrill. Why do I keep saying Sherrill?
Because it's spelled
Sherrill.
very weird. Her name is spelled Sherrill.
Yeah. Someone,
and
but it's Sherrill.
Yeah.
So very quickly, police started receiving hundreds of tips, but unfortunately the leads went nowhere. The police decided that they needed to dig deeper on each individual female to see if there was something in their background that would lead to this. They started with Sherrill's son and Susie's older brother, Bart Streeter. Bart was 9 years older than Suzie, so that would place him, about 26 years old?
Yeah.
The police learned that Bart and Sherrill didn't have a good relationship. When Bart was 17, Sherrill gave him an ultimatum, telling him that if he lived under her roof, he needed to follow her rules, which I think is a typical saying.
Yeah, I mean, you follow my rules or you
you're
don't.
out.
Yeah, that's it.
He decided he didn't want to follow her rules, so he moved out. For the following years, their relationship just continued to go downhill. According to Bart, his mother always had issues in relationships with men who drank too much. Unfortunately, Bart fell into the same category. Sherrill wanted him to stop drinking, and Bart didn't want to. Towards the end of 1991, after living on his own for 10 years, Bart returned to Springfield after going through a breakup with his girlfriend. Bart and Suzie decided to get an apartment together to try and reconnect and make up for the years that he was gone. Bart continued to drink, and after a fight that turned physical between brother and sister, Suzie made the decision to move back in with her mom. At this time, Suzie and her mom, Sherrill, decided it was best to cut Bart out of their lives for good. Only 3 months later, his mom and sister would be missing. He received an email from the police department asking if he had seen or heard from either one of them. After looking into his background, he became a suspect. Bart was asked to come to the station to be questioned. He was very cooperative and answered all of their questions. Police said after questioning him that Bart showed an interest in the case and in finding out what happened to his mom and sister. He took a polygraph test and passed, and he also had an alibi for the night the girls went missing.
I saw an interview with the brother.
Yes.
And it's like, I know that he's had like a really bad, he didn't have a good childhood, it doesn't sound like, and he, got into drinking and drugs and whatever, but it made me so sad to like see how he really wants this solved, like
how affected he is by it.
So much, like all these years later, it's so sad.
Yeah, I
So-
did see that too. In when this happens, to be viewed as a suspect at first, so you want to
Yeah.
grieve.
And he
you
was
want-
very cooperative. You know, he did everything.
But just to have that in the back of your head, because I would be nervous, because you hear about all these, times when people who didn't commit the crime are being accused and they're following them for years. And it's just, to be put in that position.
It's so hard.
It's stressful.
It really sucks.
Yeah.
It really, I can't imagine. So the police then started to look into people that Suzie hung around with. Some of the people were questionable, but the police were focused on Suzie's ex-boyfriend, Dustin Rekla. Suzie had broken up with Dustin just a few months prior to her disappearance. Suzie broke up with him after he and his friend had been arrested for vandalism at a local cemetery. This blew my mind.
Grave digging or something?
Blew my mind.
Dustin Rekla was a former acquaintance of Suzie Streeter. She was about to testify against him on charges he broke into a mausoleum to steal gold from the deceased. Police were very interested in Rekla and two accomplices, but their hope quickly...
The two boys had broken into a mausoleum in Springfield and stolen gold fillings from skulls and left the skulls in the trees at the cemetery.
That is
like
horrible. It's not even one thing. I was gonna say it's one thing to go in and break it, but it's like, just don't do it. But to take,
when I saw that,
yeah.
I was like, oh, that's.
Something's wrong with them.
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely a deal breaker, and you're not my boboyfriend
Yeah,
anymore.
thank you.
Sorry, we're calling it quits. So,
and that's a lot for Gina to say.
Yeah, I like reading about this stuff, but I have my limits, people. Okay.
I draw the line somewhere.
Yes. So police discovered that Suzie had given a statement regarding the incident that would be used against the boys at their trial that was coming up that September. So I think that they thought maybe, he was a suspect because she had said something, like she knew that he did it, obviously. So,
and that maybe
they
needed to
and
stop her from testifying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So detectives then called Dustin and his friend into the station to question them about the girl's disappearance and if it had any ties to Suzie's statement against them. Dustin's friend, Michael Clay, makes a statement saying, "I wish those bitches were dead." So Michael Clay would later go on to say that he made that comment because he had a disagreement with one of the investigators that was interviewing him. What does that have to do with the high price of tomatoes?
Yeah. And to say
there's
that
nothing to do with that.
When somebody's missing, it's just...
That's like me having an argument with you and then going somewhere else. And it doesn't even make any sense.
Well, and I'm thinking, not that to be honest with you, I don't even like looking at all of it. It's just like they're down my list of suspects, but just by them, the things they do, it's just, they just have no filter, no class, I can't even describe the type of person. So it doesn't surprise me that it comes out of his mouth because already we know these kids, something's wrong with them.
Yeah, they're troubled for sure.
They're troubled. Yeah, they're troubled youth. And
I just thought that was so weird that that's going to be the reason that you say, "I wish those bitches were dead," is because you were arguing with an investigator.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. That has nothing to do with anything. So both Dustin and Michael deny having anything to do with the disappearance of the girls. Of course they do. The boys both had similar alibis for the night that the girls went missing. They said they were at a concert and then went to an after party. Investigators were not able to confirm or deny that the boys were there or not. Both boys have been cooperative throughout the investigation but cannot be ruled out completely. In early July 1992, it had been about 4 weeks that the girls were missing. A woman reported that on June 6th, the day the girls disappeared, between 6:30 and 7 in the morning, she was sitting on her porch when a van pulled into her driveway to turn around. She said that the girl driving the van was Suzie Streeter. The woman's house is about a mile away from the house that the girls disappeared from. She said it looked like Suzie had been crying, and she heard a man's voice say from inside the van, "Don't do anything stupid. Just turn around, back out, and get us out of here." The woman said that she hadn't come forward sooner because she hadn't seen the missing persons poster. So,
but still, if
I
you
guess
see a girl crying distressed in a car and a man's voice saying like, "Don't do anything stupid," I don't know. I think I probably would have reported it regardless.
Yeah, again, it's one of those situations of like, would I not?
Or I would have at least, because I know we did this, like look at the van and try to like maybe get, just in case anything comes up. Yeah. Because we did that when we were driving across states. Like, if we saw a car on the side of the road.
We're like, okay, what's the license plate number? It's an abandoned car.
Yeah. So you just kind of.
Yeah, because you're just driving out there in the middle of nowhere and you just see a car or a truck or a van just parked on the side of the road. Like, how long has it been there? Like, why is it there?
Just in case something comes up. Yeah. I have the information for you. So.
Exactly. So, the woman is able to describe the van that they were in great detail. She said that the van was a 1964 to 1970 Dodge panel van. She said that it was silver to green in color, calling it a celery color. That's what the color the van was. Police decided, I thought this was a little weird, but the police decided to buy a van, paint it green, and park it outside the police station with a number for people to call if they've seen one resembling this.
I'd be calling saying, "Yeah, I see the van. It's out in front of the police station."
Yeah. So as like there's a lot of different reports about this van, but it went from like silver to green to gray to brown to like all different colors. And so I'm not sure anybody really knew what color this van was, but I don't know. I guess I just couldn't see a police station behind like a van that girls went missing in and parking it out there with like a sign on the front. I don't know. And numerous people reported seeing a similar van that was brown in color. Police searched hundreds of vans, but none that were linked to the missing girls. Then the police got a tip from Florida about a man named Robert Cox. He had a very lengthy criminal history. The caller believes that Cox is linked to the missing girls.
I wonder how he connected it.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, and it's you got to really pay attention because it gets a little confusing right here, because when I was listening to the podcast, it's so much information and then reading and then like, yeah, it was a lot.
Okay.
So this guy, he's the brother of a girl named Sharon Zellers. So this Sharon Zellers, her brother is calling
to report it. Okay.
To say that he thinks that Robert Cox is the person that did this.
That's involved.
Yes. So Sharon Zellers in 1978 was 19 years old, and she was the victim of a gruesome crime. Sharon was abducted and murdered after leaving work late one night. At the time of Sharon's murder, Cox had just graduated basic training as an Army Ranger. To celebrate, he took a trip to Florida with his family. Late one night, his mother had to rush him to the hospital after he returned to their motel room and he was covered in blood. He received injuries where he had the corner of his tongue bitten off. He told investigators that he had done it himself. However, the nurse that worked on him at the hospital said that there was no way that he did it because it was bitten in the opposite direction. So it was obviously coming from the opposite direction. So eventually Sharon Zeller's body was found just a few feet from Robert Cox's motel room in a nearby sewage facility. So right where him and his mom were staying, her body was found right outside of that. So police questioned Cox, but because DNA in the 70s wasn't very advanced, they had no evidence to hold him on. So they released him. He then traveled to California with the Army, and he was convicted of abducting and assaulting 2 women in 2 separate incidents. In 1985, he was taken into police custody. While he was in California, they indicted him on Sharon Zeller's murder, and he was extradited to Florida, where he had a jury trial. He was found.
So they brought him back to Florida for her murder.
For her murder, yes. Good. He was found guilty and placed on death row. Later, his sentence was overturned by the Florida Supreme Court for lack of evidence. Since then, many of the jurors have been interviewed, and they all believe that he is responsible for this murder. Cox was then extradited back to California to finish serving his time for the 2 abductions. So in 1992, Robert Cox is paroled, and he moves back to his hometown where his parents still live, and that is in Springfield, Missouri. So because of the lack of technology, it's hard for police to keep track of criminals in their area. Therefore, Sharon Zeller's family keeps track themselves of Robert Cox's location.
So they knew he went back to Springfield.
So they knew he went back to
Springfield. So as soon as they heard about the 3 girls, they made the connection and said,
yes,
this man's responsible.
Yes. So when they find out that Cox was living in Springfield at the time that the 3 girls went missing, they report it to the Springfield Police Department. They start to investigate Cox and find out that he's a utility worker. With Cox being in that line of work, it would make it very easy for him to get into someone's house.
And to have a van.
Yeah.
Utility worker.
He could easily go up and knock on their door at any hour of the day or night.
We have a electrical issue.
Anything, your gas is out, whatever, and he's got the uniform, the van, it would make it very easy. So after investigating more, they realized that Cox was a mechanic at the same time at a used car lot that Stacy's father was a salesman at.
So there's
another connection. So at first they thought that maybe Cox had seen Stacy visiting her father at work and sought her out. But that theory quickly was shut down due to the fact that the girls made a last-minute decision to spend the night at Suzie's house. So he technically, unless he was like literally following them, probably he's not going to know their plans, When questioned, Robert Cox said that on June 6th, he attended a golf tournament and that he went to his parents' house where he slept that night, and then on Sunday morning got up and went to church with his girlfriend and her child. The police questioned his girlfriend, and she confirmed that he was at church Sunday morning with her. Even though Cox has an alibi, the police still don't rule him out as a suspect in this case. He's got a lot going on. 3 years later, in March of 1995, Robert Cox, who has since moved to Texas now, was arrested for aggravated robbery. So he's just on a tear.
And of course he moved to Texas.
Of course he did. I know. So when the Springfield Police Department hear of his arrest, they decide to take another look at the alibi that he had for the days that the day that the girls went missing. So they decide to re-interview his girlfriend at that time. And now her story has changed from the original interview. She recanted her original interview, saying that she told the police that he was at church with her and her child that morning. However, he wasn't.
But why would she do that? Why would she cover up for him like that?
Who knows? Maybe he was threatening her. Look at this guy. Who knows?
I guess, but I
could have held a gun to her head or said, "I'm going to kill your kid," or who knows?
Okay. Because I'm like, I'd want him. I wouldn't want to cover up for somebody who might. Done that.
Yeah, you don't know. Clearly this guy's not in his right mind.
Yeah.
The stuff that he's doing, that we know that he's done. Cox apparently told his girlfriend at that time that if the police questioned her, to say that he was with her at church. Now, without an alibi, he becomes a suspect, and the Springfield police travel to Texas, where he's serving a life sentence, and they go there to interview him. So the Springfield, the police made 3 separate trips to Texas to talk to Cox, and each time he denied having anything to do with the missing women. Cox was known to play games with the detectives, and they feel like he likes the attention that he's getting. He's in there for on a life, serving a life sentence. Like, what does he have to lose at this point? Nothing. Like, he can just fuck around and do whatever he wants to and say whatever he wants to, basically. So Cox tells the police enough about the case to intrigue them, but not to incriminate himself. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
About a year later, Cox gives an interview to a Springfield TV reporter about the missing women. Cox says, "I know that the women are dead." He said he believed that the person who killed them had experience and knew what they were doing. He also says
He's
that
pumping himself up.
Of course, that he believes that the women are all buried close to Springfield. So police aren't sure what to make of it. They notice that he's enjoying coming and talking to the police about the case, and he's enjoying being a
About
suspect.
a year later, still incarcerated in Texas, Cox gives an interview about the 3 missing women to a Springfield TV reporter.
I know that they're dead. I'll say that. I know that.
That's not a theory.
Yeah, but I know that I just know that they're dead. I believe that a person who did this had experience, knew what they were doing. I believe that the 3 missing women are buried close to Springfield.
In the year 2000, a woman by the name of Kathy Byard, who was a crime reporter for the Ozark Sentinel, becomes very fascinated by this case, and she moves to Springfield. She's convinced that the case can be solved. Kathy started to reach out to people in the community and started taking tips and working her own case. She starts to get tips and information about the women being murdered and the whereabouts of the bodies. Police have heard a lot of rumors about possible locations where the women's bodies have been buried. However, most of these tips have come from psychics, that they have had dreams or visions of where the women's remains are at. So the police haven't taken it all too serious.
What connects you to the story of the Springfield Three?
I was here when they went missing. I was like, just let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can help bring justice for 3 women that nobody knows what happened to.
And if no one's familiar with the Ozarks, it is a very wooded area. It's got a lot of places where you can hide a body.
Yeah, it's kind of like
very
the killing fields,
mountain,
like Texas.
Yeah, this one's like got a lot of It's like a lot of trees, a lot of mountains. It's a beautiful area.
Yeah,
but it's very, very woody and crowded, like with trees and stuff. So there's a lot of places you can hide.
Yeah, I mean,
a body. It wouldn't be that difficult.
That's scary. I mean, and
well, to me, the killing fields in Texas, it's like open.
Where do you look?
Yeah, but it's open, and they still were able to hide bodies right there in fields.
Yeah,
crazy. Well, I guess they had trees at the time.
But still, it's kind of a lot of it's like in plain sight.
Yeah,
like
or it's like
it's not.
It's in neighborhoods, you know.
Yep.
So
this Kathy, this girl Kathy, she said that one location that has been brought up too many times to be a coincidence was a location in the parking garage at Cox Hospital. There's no correlation between Robert Cox and Cox Hospital. Yeah, it just so happens that that's his last name. It's not his hospital. So in 2007, Kathy asks a mechanical engineer named Rick Norland, who is an expert in ground penetrating radar, to come to Springfield. Ground penetrating radar produces underground images, so you're able to see what's hidden below the surface. The picture that you get is not a clear picture, but it's black and white, and most of the time it's a bunch of squiggly lines that you have to try to figure out what it is on your own. That right there to me is like,
it's too hard to. I don't know, because I
I
always think like you look at a cloud, you can be like, oh, that looks like a dog. Oh, and somebody else looks at the same cloud. You know, when you like start doing shapes and stuff.
Yeah, So they scan one corner of the south parking garage, and they find 3 anomalies. So I don't know how I feel about it, but 2 are parallel, and the other one is perpendicular to the other 2. The radar can't tell if these were bodies down there, but he said that it was very consistent to what they find at a gravesite location. So apparently he's
a professional.
I mean, I'm not saying that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, but
it's
if you're telling me that you're spending that kind of money and I can't see a body there, it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, you know what an anomaly is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just not enough proof to me, but I guess if you're going to compare it to what a gravesite location looks like, then so the only real way to find out whether or not that if these are bodies or not at this location is to dig up the ground. and the results aren't conclusive enough for the Springfield Police Department to justify digging up the concrete, which
I think I heard that the hospital said it was okay. They can go ahead and do it.
the hospital,
it's
the hospital
cost.
told them, go ahead, dig up whatever you need to.
But there's not enough.
But again, I
evidence
don't
to-
know. I mean, I guess it would depend on how much it cost and whatever. But then
Who's footing the bill?
But again, like maybe look at, you mean to tell me out of the whole parking garage, that one little spot that they tried the first time, like bingo, that's where you got it?
Maybe
check the other areas around and be like, oh, well, we have some here. We have some here. We have some here.
But I wonder if that's the part that wasn't completed at the time. Like maybe they went out, because I'm going to assume that they didn't just decide, oh, we're just going to look here. I wonder if it's like, okay, you say it might be somewhere around here, but yeah, let's look at the timeline. Okay.
Yeah. So there have been very few leads over the years that have emerged, which again is sad because I feel like it just goes into like
Can I talk about one that I heard about? Because I wanted to circle back over to the van.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was listening to the podcast, the Ozark podcast, she's had tips come in too, and she's trying to help them as well. And there was a lead on these two boys, teenage boys. One, I believe they were 15 years old, anywhere, but they were high school age boys. And there's a place out in the Ozarks that it was a girls' camp. What is that called? When you're a young girl in that group? Girl Scouts. What is that called? A Girl Scout camp out there. In that people would go, like play around and mess around at. And they were there one night, and they're actually really traumatized by it. Like the way they tell the story. But when they were there, they saw and heard a van pull up and drag these three girls, blonde-haired girls, out of the van. And that you know what, I can't even remember exactly what they did to them. But and then they threw them back in the van and they took off.
Wasn't that like at a location where they said that it was something, but it ended up being something else?
I wish I had more information, but that was just one story, that we heard. And I mean, I'm really leaning towards Cox, to be honest with you. Only because, he says that, he'll talk after his mom dies.
Yeah.
And he'll say more after his mom dies. And that says a lot about a person. Like he might have more information, or he might just be stringing them along, like we said.
Yeah, because
he
they're
likes
saying
the attention.
that he likes the attention. And again, like he's serving a life sentence.
Yeah.
So the guy's not
What does he
going
have to
anywhere.
lose?
He has nothing to lose at this point.
And he's probably like, you know what, if I tell him that, they'll come back around, once my mom dies,
Yeah.
But the way these boys tell us, they're men now, but the way that they're still so very traumatized by what they saw. So regardless if it was the three girls or not,
that was traumatizing nevertheless.
Somebody was not having a night that they were thinking they were going to have that night. Like, somebody was abducted. Somebody, if it wasn't not these three girls, it was some other girls that were in trouble. And the way they describe it and how scared they were. And so I wish I had more information, because I wish my memory was better than it is. But it's just,
I know sometimes I feel like there's like so many cases floating around, because like after I write one, then I'm like already starting on another one, and I'm like, am I getting them confused? And the part that's driving me crazy is I don't remember exactly what they witnessed, but it was so traumatizing to them. Yeah.
And they really do believe
I don't
that
remember either.
They saw the three girls.
What I do remember was they said that it was, oh God, I'm going to have to go back and listen to the podcast now. But they said that this area where they saw these bodies being dumped or whatever.
I know. I think they were still alive, and they threw them back in the car and they took them.
But that area was known as something. And I don't remember what it was known as, but that's not what it was. Like it ended up after they went back and researched, which doesn't mean is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you how my brain works. That's what sticks out the story. But I don't know.
That's crazy. Okay. Well, anyway, that's just kind of with the van and everything and how they brought up the van. And then these boys have a story about, the van. And at this time they didn't even know about the girls missing or anything, you know?
Right.
So this, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you don't know.
Just all these different tips.
So in February of 2019, which is pretty recent, Bart Streeter, Sherrill's son and Suzie's brother, he was arrested on suspicion of public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and attempted false imprisonment from an unrelated incident in Tennessee. So this guy still hasn't pulled himself together.
Yeah, you know,
which is sad because I think the documentary that I watched was a little older, probably from maybe late 90s, early 2000s, but it was so sad to watch him be interviewed about this because he never mended his relationship with his mom and his sister. And this literally happened within a few months of his sister moving, him and his sister lived in that apartment together. And then he came home drunk. They had a little physical altercation and she left. And it was just a few months after that they were abducted, and he never
was able to resolve that. It's like this.
And he's just he gets very emotional talking about it, and he says, like, I knew at the time that drinking was a problem for me, and that's the life that I chose, and I didn't want to change it, and I didn't care who it affected until this. But here we are in 2019, and now he's getting arrested for something else. So, So Stacy's mom, Janice, she vows to never give up believing that her daughter could still come home. She said, "Until I know 100% that Stacy is deceased, I will never declare her dead."
Well, because I know that they were saying, like, sex trafficking was something that was thrown around too, that they were kidnapped and sex trafficked.
I mean, at that point, when you start talking about that stuff, my hope would be that they were dead and that it was quick. Because, it's when you think of all the what ifs, like, you could just go on forever, and that's just, that could mess with your mind.
Of course.
That could just make your wheels spin. But her mom says, "Until I know 100% that Stacy is deceased, I will never declare her dead. They're going to have to find some remains somewhere before I call her legally dead. It's not for any reason other than if I do and she's not dead, think of how mad she will be when she gets back."
Oh.
I'm just like, she also said in this interview, which really like put things into perspective. She said, now at this point, like I said, like, this interview wasn't too recent, but at the time of this interview, she had been gone for 18 years. And she said she's been gone longer than I had her.
I just recently realized that she's been gone longer than I had her. And for her to be gone more than 18 years is heartbreaking. It's so sad.
Yeah.
And, but again, I think that it's hard to make that decision to, like, with no body, to declare her dead. We talked about, like, in the Natalie Holloway case, that took how many years before, it took like 7 or 8 years before.
7 years.
2012 or something,
and
before
she disappeared in 2005.
So it's, it's hard. I can't imagine, having to make a decision like that, but to think that she's been gone longer than she was here.
Yeah.
And you just have to go on with your day-to-day life with no answers.
Yeah.
It's just, it's awful. But in June of 1997, they had a bench that was dedicated to the three women, and it says that it's at Victims Memorial Garden in Springfield Phelps Grove Park. So I'm not sure if there's like a memorial garden with other things there, or if that's what that garden is called for them. It's just them. But apparently there is a bench there that was dedicated to them, and we've seen that in some of our other cases too.
Yeah.
The Jennifer Ertman case, I think. Her
girls that were found in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did that.
And then they
too.
also did the ones for the killing fields.
Yeah.
We had the benches
and
out there
even
too.
the one here, that little Trinity Love Jones, the one that's here. So yeah, so I don't know. I think it can't, not that, I mean, losing a child is one thing, but to not have answers and know where they're at, what happened to them, to have no questions answered.
Yeah. And to have all these tips come in, and some of them are kind of cruel. Like one's like, oh, we saw her working in a deli or in a a restaurant, you know, she was a waitress, she waited on me and things like that, you know.
Yeah,
just
it
because
really sucks. There's somebody wants money.
Yeah. There's people that look like other people that are very similar looking. I know that some are trying to help, but it's like,
yeah, and I feel like as soon as you put up like a reward, like a money, you know, like a cash reward, people are going to be all over it, you know. And it's really shitty to know that they're putting these what they're doing to these families. It's just it's so sad. So but yeah, if you guys want to read more, listen to more, see more, whatever, the book is called Gone in the Night, the Springfield Three, and the podcast is called The Ozarks, and it's a very good podcast.
It is. She's got interviews, she's talking to people. It's a really thorough podcast.
It's a 6-part podcast all on this case. And thank you very much to the listener who requested this, and I apologize deeply for not remembering your name, but
we'll put it in the credits.
Yeah, but please,
sure.
If you again have any cases that you want us to talk about or research or, you know, look up or whatever, we would love to do that. So please comment below. You could DM us, you can email us at 50statesofmadness@gmail.com. We've gotten some listeners that have reached out to us that we've talked to, and we really enjoy doing that. So if you would like to follow us, we are on Instagram and TikTok at 50 States of Madness, and our merch links are there.
Yes.
And we'll link those here too. Thank you to our Patreons. If you would like to support us on Patreon, we are at patreon.com/50 States of Madness. And I don't know. I don't think I have anything else to say.
Have a safe week.
Yeah.
See
have
you
fun.
next week.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.